Now, let me tell you, getting that diagnosis of cancer does shorten you up a bit. I can tell you from personal experience. But here's a support tool for you, a free digital template-style scrapbook. It's called It's About Us. Now, funded by the SAN and launched on Thursday at the hospital itself, that wonderful hospital of ours. Pretty honest, compelling, at times very heart-wrenching book written via the scrapbook tool by young mum Lisa McIntyre, and for her young children Benji and Samara and her husband Alan, after her shock diagnosis with a pretty aggressive bowel cancer 2 years ago at the age of 35, which is very young. Among the people responsible for the project is Associate Professor Gavin Marks, Head of Cancer Services at the SAN, and Lisa herself, and they're both with me. G'day.
Hi, Tim.
Yeah,
Hi, Tim.
Thanks for your time. It does give you a shock, doesn't it?
Oh, I think that's an understatement of the century.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you at a pretty young age think, why me?
Self-pity's not my style.
Not your thing? No.
Yeah. So it's important to me that I do something positive with it, and this is a really good start.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
So what was the catalyst for you actually sitting down and saying, okay, I'm going to do this?
It was a life writing course that I did through the SAN,
Yeah.
and that was extremely helpful. I was already writing before that and enjoyed it very much, and all the cliches are true that it is very therapeutic.
Yes.
And Gavin was aware that I did the life writing course, and they had this project that they were doing, and he asked me if I would be kind enough to do one of the first books for them, and I jumped at the chance.
Yeah, good on you.
Yeah.
Professor, doesn't discriminate, does it? Cancer?
No, it certainly doesn't.
No, it does not. So there's a better understanding now of all of this, do you hope?
Yeah, look, I think we are certainly seeing major advances in the way we treat patients with cancer and how we can improve outcomes. And I think there's a lot of work and research that has changed the way we manage our disease. But I think what we're also starting to learn and appreciate is that it's not just about the treatment of the cancer itself.
Yeah.
We also need to look after our patients as a whole. And with that comes the management of all of the sort of social, psychological and family issues. And I think what we've learned is that the diagnosis of cancer has a ripple effect. It's not just our patients, it's the patients, their families and so on.
Yeah.
And that's what we try to address with this It's About Us.
Yeah, no, it's terrific. And she's pretty pragmatic. So was I. I'm that sort of person. But I'm sure people's reactions when they get that diagnosis can be very different.
Yeah. Look, I think the diagnosis of cancer and the way people manage and deal with the diagnosis is completely individual.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of the challenges that people experienced out there from trying to document their experience, that there wasn't really a tool available to make it happen. And that's one of the things that we've tried to achieve with this, is to develop a site that allowed you to individualize templates and use things that were going to be relevant for you. So on the site there's 100 different templates, and you can pick and choose whichever ones are relevant for you. So
that's a very good
this
tool.
allows people to individualize their experience.
Yeah, and we should say, of course, but you've actually done it in little hardcover books as well.
Yes.
Lisa's story and letters for Aviat. Now, is that supplementary too? Is that something you decided to do after the event? Yeah.
Yes. So I'd had all these pieces of writing that I had done, and I was trying to think, how am I going to pull them together? Because I was always writing for my children and for my husband and for my extended family. But I was a bit overwhelmed with how to pull them together and make them into something. And a few people had said, well, why don't you publish them? And I was thinking, no. And then this opportunity came up, and it is a perfect way to be able to publish your writing without, formally publishing it, so to speak.
Yeah, look, I suppose, Professor, in a way, it's a bit like mental illness, and it's Mental Illness International Day today, and the stigma associated with that. I imagine some people don't like to talk about it.
Absolutely. I think this is not for everyone, but I think there was a big gap out there for people who did want an opportunity to share their stories. And I think there's a few benefits of it. The first is the potential cathartic experience of documenting your experience and documenting what you've been through. There's therapy in that, and there's a lot of research to support that. That's not for everyone.
No.
And the other thing that we thought was important was also giving people who have an uncertain future an opportunity to document their insights, their wisdoms, their dreams, and their stories for their families. And through Memento, who've partnered us with this, they've subsidised us being able to produce the books that you see in front of you today.
Yeah, I mean, the books are terrific, so congratulations on them. They really are great. I mean, and they're very simple. I mean, it says it's about every day, it's about childhood memories, it's about changes, it's about encouragement, it's about all of those things. Interestingly, I'm on Sky News this morning, and there's a fella in the States who is terminally ill, and he wanted to do all of the things that he wasn't going to get to do with his kids. So they had marriage ceremonies, even though they weren't getting married to anybody, just had the ceremonies so that he could experience that feeling of giving away the kids. I think he had a daughter and a son. And I thought, wow, I mean, that's really confronting. Yeah, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's one of the things that there's an opportunity to do that as well in the book, is if people wanted to document wishes for birthdays, for future birthdays, for weddings and so on, there's an opportunity to do that through the book.
Yeah.
And
well, I visited the professor when I had mine. Mine's 3 years ago now. Fortunately for me, I didn't require his services and didn't have to have chemotherapy, but you've had a lot.
Yes, I've had chemotherapy, mostly IV, for the last 2 years, every fortnight.
Yeah, and it's not good.
No, it's not easy. It's but the mental battle can often be just as hard, if not harder, than the physical battle.
Yeah.
And so things like this, where I'm very appreciative of Gavin and his wife and Des, who think outside the box, who don't just treat their patients with medicine, but he's looking at a whole approach to treating his patients.
Yeah.
And I definitely I feel that when I'm in his office, when we're in our consultations.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it doesn't surprise me. It comes from the SAN. I mean, it's a very innovative place, isn't it?
Yeah, look, and I think this is very much aligned with the philosophy of the SAN, and the SAN Foundation gave us a start-up grant to make this happen. And certainly there's been a lot of work that's gone into this, and although we're sitting here getting some of the credit for it, Des and Joe put a lot of work and effort into making this happen, and I think what this has evolved into is much, much bigger and much more than I ever could have dreamed of, and hopefully it will help people along the way.
Well, I know from experience, and so do you. I mean, you're in the hands of great professionals when you're in the SAN, and my professor, Arthur Richardson, I mean, he's got some opinions. We were just talking in our technology segment about the possibility of radiation from mobile phones causing cancer. Cancer must continually perplex you.
Yeah, look, I think as we learn more and more about cancer, we learn that there is more and more to learn about cancer, and the biology of the disease is becoming intriguing, and understanding more of the biology of the disease has become critical in us being able to direct our treatments accordingly. And the more research we do, the more research we realise we need to do. So it's a complex area, and I think that's it. It's such an individualized disease, both from an emotional point of view and from a physical point of view. Yeah. And it's challenging, but obviously very rewarding.
Yeah, and in broad terms, I mean, you just know, most people do know, if they smoke too much, drink too much, get too fat, they're going to have cancer risks. But it's the ones where it gets little kids and somebody as young as Lisa that you think to yourself, well, why?
Yeah. Look, there's certainly things that we know are definite risk factors. Yeah. But what it is that makes patients who don't have the risk factors develop disease, that's an area that there's obviously active research and understanding what makes cells turn over, what makes cells behave badly, and not have the usual protective mechanisms to remove the cells that are behaving badly. That's the area where we're doing a lot of research to try and understand that better. Yeah,
and those researchers are there every day, almost 24/7 behind those microscopes, aren't they? Doing that very thing.
Yep.
Yeah, it's terrific. How are you?
Yeah, I'm in a good place. I'm as good as I can be, physically and mentally. So I have a lot of people that I go to get care from, not just Gavin, but like you mentioned, the SAN is a fantastic place, and I don't have to go anywhere outside of the hospital to receive any of my care, whether it be to visit my psychologist or to get scans or to go to my support group or to see Gavin himself, and to also receive chemotherapy. So, I'm just thankful that I've got such a great facility so close to home.
Is there anything like you'd like to say to your fellow Sydney-siders who might be going through the same thing as you?
Yes, that it's that don't underestimate how hard it is, and don't bottle it up inside. Talk to your family, talk to your work. They'll be more understanding than what you think they will be.
Yeah.
And seek out services like the It's About Us project, because this is really good for the patient, but it's fantastic for the family. You don't have to give it to them, while you're still here. You can hold on to it till you're all better or till you've passed away. You don't have to watch